Good evening, and welcome to the 2021 Billerica Cable Access Television and Billerica Minuteman's Planning Board Candidates Evening. My name is Joy Hosford. I'm the Senior Multimedia Journalist with the Billerica Minuteman, and I will serve as your moderator this evening. I'd like to thank the crew at BATV for facilitating the broadcast of this Candidates Forum. I'm proud to be a part of this joint effort, and I'm sure this will be one of the many ways that this election season is unique again. We're heading into our second pandemic election season. Election officials in the town of Billerica have been working hard and will continue to work hard to provide the easiest, safest, and most accessible voting process during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We hope this session will be informative and make the voting process as smooth as possible. This program is being recorded over Zoom remotely due to the pandemic to ensure the health and safety of both the candidates, myself, and the BATV staff. Tonight's our recorded broadcast will feature current Billerica Planning Board member running to secure a second term, Christopher Tribou, current Community Preservation Commission member, Marlies Henderson, Historic District Commission member, William Bulens, and resident and newcomer to the race, John Meneghini. And I hope I said that right. I got nervous right as I was about to say it. All right, the structure of tonight's debates will be as follows. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to provide an opening statement, giving a short history on their position or background. Candidates will be allowed to take and reference notes during the debate. I will ask about 5 questions, time permitting. Hopefully we'll get in all 5 with about the hour span that we have. Each person will have 2 minutes to answer and a 1 minute rebuttal afterwards. All right, so we will start with opening statements, and we'll start with incumbent Christopher Tribou.
All right. Well, first of all, my name is Christopher Tribou, and I'm running for a 3-year seat here on the planning board, and I'm asking for your vote on April 10th. I've lived in Billerica all of my life. Started down on Nashua Road and moved to Bridal, where I'm currently residing. And I went to high school at Shawshene Valley Technical High School, and I learned the trades, and that's where I learned to appreciate the trades. In my childhood, I was part of Troop 30, and we did numerous Eagle Scout projects across town and blood drives at the Masons, and it was a great experience. They provided the values that I hold today, and helped me achieve my Eagle Scout, my Eagle Scout project, which was building a handicapped accessible tree nursery in Sunny Meadow Farm. Hold on a sec.
I think we lost your light there. Oh,
No,
there you go.
yeah, automatic light. It's
Okay.
probably not the anyway. So scouting has been a big influence with the values that I've had in my life. But and then I went to school afterwards. I got my to UMass Lowell, where I got my bachelor's and master's in business. And then from there, today I work as a project coordinator, and I find the job to be very fulfilling. So I feel that I'm running for a second term because I want to continue the progress that we've made so on the planning board so far. And I think that my votes can speak for themselves in terms of the progress that it's helped with the town. And you can see my effects not only as a planning board member, but as a town meeting member in town. So as a planning board member, I voted to approve the Pinehurst Fire Station, and also to approve money for sidewalk funds to be used on Nashua Road. And that, combined with my votes at town meeting, created a new roads and new sidewalks on Nashua Road, a new Pinehurst Fire Station. I've had a vote where We voted in favor of E&D Serrano expansion, which will now help bring good jobs to Billerica, but also to help them in their fight to developing cancer fighting drugs. I voted for the first recreational marijuana facility. So, I mean, for the people that really enjoy pot, but it will also help bring in tax revenue to the town, and even ironically, helping with substance abuse programs and various other funding within the town. And even from small stuff to helping out Sam with the Turnpike Market with an expansion with having a restaurant. And the biggest one is probably the development of the Billerica Mall, which I think that mixed use development will really help out the town, really, and bring new restaurants to the area, which residents can enjoy, and hopefully improve the overall area. And I feel that when I went on to the board, I wanted to really get rid of some of the blight that was on Boston Road and within a lot of the rundown properties in the area. And I feel like I've done that as a planning board member, and I want to continue to bring restaurants, commercial development to the town that helps the town out, that can keep it going and can keep it prosperous. But, you know, and then also to focus on, again, as a town meeting member, I focused on voting for open space such as the cider mill, and also historic preservation with the First Parish Church, voted to fund the preservation of that, and also the house school. So from open space to historic preservation, you can see my voting record from town meeting to planning board all over town. And I'm asking for your vote on April 10th. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. So next we'll go to Marlies Henderson.
Thank you, Joy. And thank you for setting this up. I think it's very interesting to sit together with the candidates for the same board. My name is Marlies Henderson, and I'm running for one of two seats that are up. And I've lived in North Billerica since I moved here in 1997. And my husband was born and raised here in Billerica, and we raised our 3 children here. In 2012, I started to get more involved in the town with the local politics once I couldn't, once there was less work running the home, there is more time running the town. And that's a little exaggerated, but I definitely became an advocate for biking, for the outdoors, for open space. And I learned that not many people in Billerica know about their open space. So for the past 6 years, I ran an awareness program. First it was free, then later Recreation Department wanted it to be a program that would pay for itself, so people get charged. And what I hear most is from people that join, that they say, I've lived here for 40 years and I didn't even know this was here. And that's one of the most frequent comments. So I think it's working. The awareness idea is working, and it's important that people realize there is open space in Billerica, an open space that you want to include in this mixed zoning that is being talked about. So usually they talk about, oh, residential and commercial, but there are more land uses than just those two. And the open space is maybe difficult to quantify or put a price tag on, but open space doesn't require sewer, drinking water, police. I mean, not nearly as much as residential and commercial does. So, residential requires more services than commercial, and open space is the most affordable. But it's also important as a filter for our water, as the provider of our oxygen, and provider of cool air in the summer, especially when you bicycle. You notice when you are on a street and you go past a piece of forest, the wind blows through it. It's just an incredible difference as far as temperature in your town goes. And with climate change, you have to take that into consideration. You have to be resilient and for all these changes, and sustainability is a big part of what I'm about. Open space, the green in my slogan, sensible, of course, it's got to be sensible. The green is going to get my attention, and growth, yeah, well, it's going to happen. But as we grow, we really have to pay attention to the green factor. Then also it's important to think about changing infrastructure. You can't stand with one leg in the old system and with the other leg in the new system. If you want to innovate, you have to also innovate your infrastructure. And talking about only sidewalks and pedestrian activity is not enough, because you'll have gridlock in the streets.
Okay.
Little bits of I don't know if I'm past my 5 minutes.
You're just there, so good
Oh,
work.
okay. No, let's keep it at that. Thank you.
All right, Bill, go for it.
My name is Bill Bulens, and I'm running for one of the 2 available seats on planning board. My wife and I moved into town a little over 50 years ago. So we've raised our family here. We've taken advantage of any programs that are available in town, kind of helped in volunteering for some of those programs, such as Boy Scouts. As Chris mentioned, I was involved as Scoutmaster for Troop 11 for 12 years up in St. Andrews. But we also were with the Billerica Ski Club and a few other organizations and things that we're getting started in or as they're going along. Through all that time, I just basically, we lived here, we enjoyed the town, it was an affordable town, and there were things to do, keep us busy, happy, staying in town. And now that our children have grown a little bit and moved around, I kind of looking a little bit further. A few years ago, I got involved with the Historic District Commission. And I kind of guess that's where it started to look into a little bit more of what's going on in the town. Thinking in mind to keep the town affordable so that younger families, new families can move into town the same way we did. But we also know that towns have to grow. So there's that compromise, the line that you have to walk to get growth, but be careful and selective of what that growth is. The new mixed use plan that's coming before the town board, from what I've seen and read about it, it looks like the kind of direction that I think we should be going in. We do need families and we do need the growth in town, but kind of checked, controlled, and guided as to where we're going with it. So I think that in the center of town kind of keeps that some of the historic value in the town. We're not going to disrupt a lot, but we do, and as I've seen on the Historic District Commission, that houses, buildings get replaced, they get upgraded, they get repaired. We still try to keep something of the older tradition, the older looks. And that is marvelous, and we need to do that, but we also need to move along. And some of my other thoughts were perhaps we may see over along Middlesex Turnpike, as everybody starts back to work, hopefully. We know there's going to be companies over there that aren't going to bring staff back. We're going to have an inventory of empty buildings. So maybe we should kind of head in that direction to look at maybe not knocking buildings down, maybe being able to reuse them, some kind of a large scale recreational area indoor for winter, or if the property's allowed to develop maybe new townhouse type developments or even single home developments. We do need apartment complexes. There are always people that don't want homes. They just would prefer apartments. We need to make that available to people. But there's also the families that would prefer to have their own home, have their own place, have a small yard or a big yard. So I think as we kind of look at the growth that will hopefully will be coming, that we can kind of keep that in mind as to home ownership or homes as well as commercial. And in the mixed use, oh, sorry, that was my timer. I know I'm getting close. Into the restaurants, some new business, some new retail. I think we need that in town. We just have to hopefully be able to guide or help guide it in the direction that we want it to go in. So that was my thought, my reasoning behind what I'm doing. And I think that will take care of just about my whole 5 minutes. So I'm all set. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, John, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Hi, my name is John Meneghini, and I'm a 27 year resident in Billerica. I moved here when my family was young. My wife and I moved here. We came from Arlington and moved to Billerica really for the same economic reasons that I see a lot of young families struggling with, and it was the affordability. So Billerica has always been, I think, an affordable kind of town, almost an oasis, you know, in right here in the metropolitan area. So that's really what drew us here. But we were very fortunate in that actually the house that we ended up buying is over here in the corner of town in Timber Creek Estates. We were actually looking at Tower Farm Road, right, which ironically is kind of in the middle of a lot of controversy today. But as Bill said, we raised our family here. I have 5 children, and they're all adults now, and actually have 2 grandchildren. And one of the things that's been a little bit discouraging to me is that you know, my children haven't been able to kind of stay here in Billerica, mostly because of the lack of, you know, affordable housing, and so it's just you know, and that's bringing a lot of I think a lot of families that are experiencing this. So I'm definitely in favor of housing for families. I would like to see more 2-family houses. We actually do have a zoning ordinance for 2-family houses. And if we're going to have landlords in the town, I would actually rather have 2-family homes that are developed and sold to homeowners who would then perhaps, you know, rent the other side of a duplex or the other unit to a young person or a senior who needs the rental space. So I think both needs need to be met. Billerica has been just a marvelous, wonderful place. I agree with Marlies. There has been, I'm kind of an outdoorsman. I like to climb, I like to hike. And Billerica is, I think, a hidden gem. So I think, as Marlies has said, right, I think there are so many things in Billerica that people aren't even aware of. And you have to go look for them. I mean, there are actually public access points all throughout town to get into these natural wild areas that people aren't even aware of. I've been very blessed to live in a part of town where there's a lot of this. And I like to go to the White Mountains and hike and climb. And when I come home, I feel like I'm just almost, I can just walk out my backyard, out my back door, and just walk through the woods and get to Great Meadows Wildlife Sanctuary, right? And so that's something that I want to protect, I want to preserve. So that's kind of who I am. That's kind of what animates me. The other thing I should say is that in my campaign, I've been pretty clear. I don't know if a lot of people have seen it, but I do have a blog and I've posted a lot of, you know, kind of my positions and my goals, my positions and my goals. And I'm definitely coming out to say that I am really against the high density apartment complexes that are going up. I feel that the zoning law, now I understand we've got the new mixed use zoning law. I feel that it's a giant step forward, but I frankly don't feel like it's enough. And there are a number of you know, things about it technically that I don't like. I think it's difficult. So the zoning, I don't think the idea of having laws that are broadly generally defined, okay, and then puts everything into the hands of the planning board to be able to say through special permit, we have this power to be able to do all of these different things. I actually don't think that's good for the town. I don't think it's good for the planning board. And I think it puts them in a bad position, puts the town in a bad position. Because with laws that are not specific, what you do is you basically invite lawsuits, and that's exactly what we've been seeing. So the fact that we are seeing lawsuits happening and that planning board is stuck in these controversies, I think the planning board has been doing a hard job. They've had a difficult job, and I think
cut
Chris
you
and
off there.
others there, yeah, I
Sorry.
think Chris and others have been working really hard.
Oh,
And so
your
I want
time's
to
up.
support the planning board, and that's my position.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. I appreciate it. So we're going to move on to our first question. I'm going to focus this first question for the incumbent, Chris. What's one item the board is currently working on that you'd like to continue if you're reelected?
Well, right now we're working on the mixed use development zoning, which we are going to be voting on April 8th. But after that, I think that we do have to keep focusing on, I think the two biggest things are housing affordability, and the other, I would have, that's pretty much, I think that's the biggest one. And the thing is that, as I think John mentioned before, the thing is though, is a lot of our zoning in town, I think that, and I wanted to talk with Mike about it. A lot of our zoning in town is just strictly single family zoning. And so that's the reason why we're having a lot of split lots. And so people are doing the B2 subdivisions are doing split lots and doing like a small house for their family. And that's what they're doing, I say, usually for affordability. But so we're going to have to, when we look at doing, say, for example, if we were willing to change the zoning a bit or tweak the zoning to have it so that those duplexes could be put within the areas, or even a single AUDs. I think that's really what we got to focus on in town, is that affordable aspect. So it's easier, the permitting process is easier to build accessory dwelling units and allowing people to live there or within the duplexes. And I think that's more of incremental development. And it's something that maybe not the planning board extensively is going to be constantly voting on, but it's the zoning changes that we could make and we could look into. So that's something that that I would like to work with within the future.
Great. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to Marlies to answer a similar question. What's a quality that you bring from your career or experience as a member of a local municipal board or committee that makes you the best candidate for this for one of the seats on the planning board?
I think my best asset would be that I know exactly where all the open space is and how connectivity could be created. So if you have an area where a developer wants to build, that I know how the developer can make the project more attractive with safe connectivities to nearby open space. As a two-term member on the Conservation Commission, I think it's good that I got certified, so I'm familiar with the Wetland Protection Act and the local bylaw. I think that's even handy on the planning board too. So the developer, I'm not going to manage two boards, but I'll have it in the back of my head. And other than that, yeah, it's most the open space knowledge. I think I have good value to bring to this board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bill, same question. What's the quality that you bring for your career or experience as a member of a board or committee that makes you the best candidate for one of the seats?
I think working around town with the historic district, I've got to see more, getting more involved with different parts of the town. But as we stretch out from there, the affordable portion, because I've got about 14 years working with Habitat for Humanity now, that I've seen how we can introduce affordable housing and either in duplexes. We have done 2-story up and down, side to sides, cluster development, and it can be done. It doesn't need a tremendously large parcel of property. So if we look into a cluster type development, I've got some familiarity with that. And I just have a few more ideas based on what I've seen around town through the historic district and the association with Habitat and what I've done, that I just think I can help the planning board and help the town. Ultimately, it's just to help the town grow as we go. And I think just what I've been involved with in the background kind of would help do that.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, we'll move on to John.
Same question?
Same question, yep. What you bring from your background, your career,
Sure.
or boards that you're on?
So I'm a software engineer, and I actually have a very active, career still. Definitely still working full time, and I lead a whole team of engineers. But I also spend a lot of time. My career is unique in the sense that I've spent a lot of time working on software standards. And so I have basically, you can go look at my LinkedIn page and see, I have patents, I have specifications, I have software, I work with the International Standards Organization, I work with engineers all over the world. And so I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to specifications. And one of the things that people kind of challenge me with is, what do you think you can, so these zoning laws, to me, they're just like a software specification. And I really do think it matters, as I said, it's what the actual law says, right? Because what we want laws. The planning board doesn't protect us as a town. And this is a narrative that I have been hearing in the last, 4 years in town meeting. The planning board does not protect us. The laws protect us. So I really, hope to actually take those skills and apply them to the problem of understanding the zoning laws and actually working together with other people and, the other members of the planning board to actually come up with, new, understand where the problems in the law is and propose new changes to these laws that will better suit the needs of our town, right? That's really what the skill is that I think I bring.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to our second question this evening. What are your feelings on high density housing and its place in Billerica? And Marlies, I'll start with you.
Perfect. High density housing will only make sense if there's a large parcel where most of that parcel stays open space. That is, so if you have an area where you could put 10 houses under the underlying zoning, you might move all those 10 houses in a cluster together so the rest of the parcel stays undeveloped. That might make sense. Not all the way 5 floors up in the sky, neither, because that doesn't fit in the character of the town. So I believe that even Timber Creek is a type of cluster because the houses were built in relatively close together, and there is a lot of conservation restricted land all around it. So that is a type of cluster that is acceptable. near the station, our train station, that's where you might have, I mean, for example, the mill buildings, how much I would like to see there. You can even go up because the mill buildings are already high. There you could do it. And that could be apartment buildings. And of course, the owners would have to be part of the idea. But sprawl is the biggest problem, and cluster would help preserve open space.
Okay, so that was me. That's the timer.
Yeah,
And
I'm
we're
good
going to
with
move.
that.
Yep. We're going to move on to Mr. Bulens.
As Marlies said, the high density in this town doesn't really fit. More of an open area type of town, smaller structure. There is, of course, always a need somewhere for high density. If we look at it as high density apartment complex, it's not really family orientated as much as I'd like to see in town. If we look at density in the respect of cluster type development, duplexes, townhome developments, I'd agree with that completely. And I like the idea of the cluster type. The homes closer together, yes, but have the properties out there and available. So like some of our zoning laws, we can only build on a percentage of the property. And I think that's something that is in the right direction to keep us not overcrowded. But we do need some type of a density in some areas, and some areas will work fine. Like Marlies said, up around the mill area, if that mill building were converted over, that would be a high density. It just is in the right place. So we'll be looking at the area of town, the size of the project, and is it probably what I would like to see is more of ownership type as opposed to rental type. I think that more in keeping with the town background. But that's
So that's time on that.
okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. We're going to move on to John now.
Well, in a word, I don't think high density housing belongs anywhere in Billerica. And I'm a little bit kind of feeling like my opponents are reading from my script because, these are positions that I published on my blog a long while ago, and I do know that they've been studying my blog. Certainly there is, if there is going to be a new, I would say, I think like the renovation of the mill building, maybe that would be a different situation because as Marlies said, it's an existing building that's already there. But anytime there's going to be a new building put up, right? The people in this town do not want anything more than 3 stories high. It's just, that's what they want. And it should be pretty clear. So I think that's been acknowledged in the new mixed use, but I don't think that the new mixed use law goes far enough. Why? Because it still has all these incentives for high density. High density buildings do not help the town. I don't really think they help housing, right? They help the developer. So if there's going to be apartment buildings that go up in town, I really think they should be moderate priced apartments. And I'm not talking 10%. I think the town should make their own law, zoning law that says the only reason why we would want to have high rise apartment buildings, okay, is to meet the needs of our elderly and our veterans and other people who cannot afford, but that's not what's going on. These buildings that they're putting up are luxury apartment condos in buildings. They're not even condos, they're buildings. So I'm against it.
Okay. All right. And finally, Chris.
So, I mean, I'll just look at it this way. So what do I think of high density housing? I think it's kind of like, not a loaded question, but I would say, what do I think of apartments? So I would have to say you need a variety of different housing needs in your town. I think that what it is that Billerica has throughout its ages not proactively planned. The reason why we have all these 40B projects that really the planning board wasn't even involved with was because the town was not proactive at creating affordable housing. And the thing is that they never really, and I think people just didn't want any type of housing there. And then that's how they got the 40Bs. I think also too, with when the mixed use zoning was passed in 2016, I think that it is correct that with regards to how the zoning law is, that's one of the things that we have to keep on, because that does regulate the density that developers are allowed to do. And if you don't, and it, if you don't have that within the laws, then it's very easy for the land court to side with the person who's applying for the project. So overall, though, I think that that you need a variety of housing needs. Also with the mill, the problem with the mill is the mill district is actually very limiting. We did have a project there that actually did approve units. It was five units, and one of them was affordable for the mill district. So the guy has people actually do live there. But the mill district itself, the way that it's set up and the way that it's worded, it doesn't really allow for really that type of that density at the moment. But overall, it's just, what do I think of apartments? I think that, again, it's,
And I have
you
to
need a
cut you
balance
off.
of everything.
Sorry, we're at the
Yep,
2-minute
that's fine.
mark. Thank you. All right, moving on to our third question. Outside of housing, what do you think is one of the biggest issues the planning board is or should address? And we'll start with John.
So one of the things that planning board is actually in charge of that, is not talked about or understood very much is it's not just zoning for houses, but if a company wants to come in and do some type of industrial use or something, like for instance, let's say cell phone towers, right? So I don't know what people's opinions are, cell phone towers are, but basically my feeling is that cell phone towers are not only unattractive, there's some health risk. And if you don't believe me that they're unhealthy, just go stand next to the cell phone tower that's out that's out here, any of the cell phone towers that we have. Just go stand within 30 yards of it and tell me what you think. So I'm concerned that like even in Tewksbury, they've got these new cell phone towers that they started putting up. So that's something that planning board has control over, right? And so, I mean, I'm concerned about the health of our environment. I'm concerned about the health of people. And that's one thing that planning board actually has the ability to regulate. And so I'm very interested in, again, studying our laws about that, what the town has to say about those types of things. If there's not a law at town meeting, I'm gonna work to propose a law to get a law passed. Right, that's kind of the way I'm thinking about this.
Okay, and we will move on to Bill. Bill, what is outside of housing that you think the planning board is or should address?
Beside the housing, I think we need perhaps some commercial building to go with it to sustain some kind of employment opportunities in the area. But also if we could bring in just a quick, as an example, a car dealership somewhere that fits into the property, they get a large enough area so that we don't have to always be going out of town to find certain things that we're looking for. So something more to the business line. We have to kind of bring business back into Billerica to some degree. It's nice to have a lot of the homes, and we do need them, and the mixed use does bring some business back in. But on the idea of some business opportunities here, maybe even smaller business, restaurant kind of operations, something that the town lacks that the residents would like to have in town that we could kind of hopefully direct into that direction and see what we can get something going. So in the commercial, not necessarily large industrial, but some kind of commercial operation, again, to restaurants, small stores, so we don't always have to be getting in our car and going out of town to find things that we're looking for. And that would be about it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, Chris, how about you? How do you feel about that question?
I feel that I think the planning board should be working with the selectmen with regards to actually accessibility in terms of sidewalks and just generally public transportation. I think that's a big thing. So about, I think 1% of people actually like walk to work in Billerica based on the town's master plan. I think maybe, I think the most updated version. And so, and the reason being is that if you look at the sidewalks, they're kind of hodgepodge, because usually when we're building sidewalks, it's when we're implementing sewer. So we're kind of destroying the street, putting in the new street, putting in the new sidewalks, and, you know, obviously the sewer underneath. But, you know, and we have a lot of these places where, you know, the sidewalk doesn't connect to anything, or so we need to have that thing where comprehensively, like, you know, the sidewalks can connect, and that's is a problem on Boston Road. And it doesn't make people feel that, you know, they all have to feel that they have to use their car to everywhere they go, and it's very different from Billerica in the 1618. You know, there was a lot of walking, and even like you can see in the past, the trolleys, and there was just a lot more walkability, and I think accessibility, and that has gone away. And so we need to reorient ourselves towards trying to fix that problem.
Okay, all right, thank you. And we will move on to Marlies for that question.
And I think I'll continue on with what Chris was saying about the infrastructure. Instead of the planning board sort of reacting to whatever a developer who comes in, that's of course one part of our duties, but we might also be proactive by having, you know, updating the master plan, working on the municipal vulnerability preparedness plan, complete street plan, open space plan. The master plan was started in 17, completed in 18, and it's supposed to be a living document and just so be updated all the time. And I don't think that's being done. And I don't even think people very much look at these plans. And the whole idea of having plans is that you can move forward in a planful way. And just updating the plans is, I think, part of what the planning board, the name says it, you'd think, but creating the plans and implementing plans is part of what we should be doing, and I don't think it's being done enough. Perhaps it's a lack of time, but the community preservation plan was written by Rob Anderson, and I think it should be written by a planner. Rob Anderson was not a planner. And housing production plan, it comes from the housing authority angle, but the planning board should be heavily involved with it. And that one is
I'm going to cut you off there just because we're at 2 minutes. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm good with it. Thank you.
All right. And I think I'm going to ask this as our final question tonight, just because we're moving towards the hour mark. What is your vision for Billerica in the next 5 years? And you can include any issues that you might see happening because of the pandemic that may have not happened if it were any other year. And so we'll start with you, Marlies.
5 years. 5 years?
Yeah. What do you see for Billerica within the next 5 years?
Yeah. I think we are on our way to clean it up from what it's been 20 years ago. So it will be even cleaner, and historic places will be spruced up thanks to CPA, and also fields and parks will be spruced up for that reason, and we will have a vibrant recreational map system with indications of what conservation land name with proper signage and much connectivity, and we will have the gap filled of the Bay Circuit, which will I'm not sure if we will have that Yankee Doodle bike path, but there will be a Bay Circuit.
All right, thank you. Chris, same question for you. Where do you see the community in the next 5 years using planning, the things you're doing with planning?
Well, I see within the next 5 years, I see that hopefully we'll have the mixed use zoning passed, and that will bring in and attract new projects that will really clean up any type of blighted areas on the Boston Road area, that will sit down the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board and really lay out that comprehensive plan for that sidewalk so that we can have more of that accessibility. And honestly, I do see, I'm looking at, I'm on NIMCOG, so I get updates on the Billerica bike path a lot. Hopefully, at least we'll be starting construction, and once that's finished, that will be a very nice addition. I don't think it will be within the 5 years it takes. Once you take a $1 from the federal government, it's like a 10-year process. So the thing is, though, is I think that we will be moving in the right direction between having bike paths, having accessibility, and also too, if we try to expand to having a more incremental development with multifamily units, I think we could also have affordability. So we have the capabilities of meeting our goals in the master plan and our goals as a town as a whole, and then some within the course of the 5 years. It's really up to us.
All right, so we're going to move on to John.
So my vision for Billerica in the next 5 years, okay, no more high density apartment buildings, hopefully zero. Even the 3-story buildings, right? I do not want to attract developers to this town through means. What I would hope is we would have commercial revitalization through, some type of incentives or work. I think this is the select board's responsibility to actually attract, commercial revitalization. In the commercial buildings, nobody wants to see these abandoned buildings, and I would really hope that we can start to fill some of these abandoned commercial properties. Get the tenants back into the mall or something, right? Revitalize that, and at the same time, I would like to see some of the municipal properties that the town owns. Instead of proposing building projects for those places, right? Let's turn those into green spaces like that Thomas Ditson School. I think the people in that community there in Pinehurst would like to see a park or some green space there. I would hope to see those things change. And those would be my goals, right? But my goals don't include, bringing developers in, enticing developers with high density incentives, right? I want to change those laws, and stop that.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to Bill.
And I'm lucky enough to be at the end and say, well, I agree with everybody and what everybody has said on that question. But no, everyone is correct. And I think we all have some of the same basic ideas. And in 5 years, I'd love to see the town over the hump of the density problems, over the squabbling of the malls, and kind of get us settled down to more convenient, smaller, easier place to live. Not as hard, as hectic, more open space for everybody. The bike path would be a great connection between areas. But I think we'd all work hard at that. And I think everybody's ideas contribute to it. And as John said earlier, we must be reading his blog, but I think everybody's on that same track, that we just want something better for the town. And again, the growth of families and the affordability in the town, I think, is what we're really should be looking to. And what that's going to require us to do, I think we can do and will get done as we move forward. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
So we are going to finish up with 2-minute final statements from everyone. So we will start with John. If you'd like to give your final statement, go right ahead.
So thank you very much. I have a little bit of means of rebuttal. I do feel like my opponents have backpedaled here a little bit. The high density thing has been almost a divisive problem. And I think all of us agree that we want that to stop, right? All of us, we want the same thing. We want prosperity and peace for our community. We all want to enjoy the blessings and the benefits that Billerica has provided, to our families and to our communities. We want those to grow and to prosper and strengthen and continue. So if you vote for me for town meeting, I will do my best to listen to every voice and represent the concerns of my constituents. I really would like there to be more of a grassroots flavor to what happens on planning board and at town meeting and with the select board for that matter. I really want there to be, we are a town, we are not a city. And so I want to work to make Billerica be a town, and I will represent my constituents, whether I agree with you or not. I will work to listen and represent you on planning board and at town meeting, because I'm serving there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bill, why don't you go ahead and give your final 2-minute wrap up?
Well, I'd like to thank you for having this tonight so that we can all get our 2 cents out there. I think that we just need to stay forward and know what our goals are. I know what I've expressed in the past. I think we need to stay with family, with affordable. Certainly can be done. We can certainly stay as the town that we are and the reason that we all moved here. We're an affordable family home, hometown, and I just will do what I can to keep it that way and what I think I would like to express my vision as. But of course, I would listen to everything and anything that anybody asks or comes up with ideas, talk to anyone about them. And if it's something that's feasible we can work on, then that's what I would like to do. Again, I would like and thank everyone for any votes that you want to give us on the 10th. But the goal is what I've stated in my announcements and other ideas is we need to keep building as a town, but it is an affordable, friendly hometown. And that's it, Joy.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, Chris, your 2-minute wrap up.
All right. Well, again, I'd like to ask for your vote on April 10th. Here's the thing here is you've seen my voting record and you can make judgments based on that. And I would have to say is that I've been honored to be on the planning board, and I'll be honored if I get reelected again to serve. I try to act within the best interest of the residents that I possibly can. I know that there's sometimes controversial projects, but we have, like I said, the zoning bylaws that we have, and I have to make the judgment based on that. And it's I guess it's easier said than done sometimes, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot on the board. And again, I would like to hopefully with the new mixed use zoning that we have that we are working on, we can get that approved, and that can put in some projects that have addressed some of people's concerns. And we can also focus on then after that with affordability within smaller incremental projects. And then lastly is also focusing on that connectivity and continuing to preserve and our historic places and our open spaces. And again, I would like your vote on April 10th, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And finally, Marlies.
Yeah, closing statement. Let me use the time to thank you for setting this up. Our new Tom's Up. It was, let me just stop this. Our new Tom's Up, who's doing the debates, the political debates. And the telephone distracted me.
That's okay.
I've had my branding.
What do you want people to know?
I've had my branding kind of publicized with open space and the importance of open space for human beings, for their mental and physical health. And I was on the Conservation Commission for that for 2 terms. And I decided in last December, maybe on the planning board, I can even do more because the jurisdiction for conservation is limited to the wetlands. And on planning board, the jurisdiction is much larger. So I was going to put myself out there. People can vote for me. And if people would like me to do it, to be on the planning board, it's not going to be a tea party. And certainly a tea party as in the sense of having your afternoon tea, not the one in Boston. And if they don't vote for me, I'll have peace with it. And if you do vote for me, I will work hard for you. I will.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for joining me tonight and weighing in on the issues. Like everybody said, the election is on Saturday, April 10th in town, so make sure you go out to the polls. We have everyone's profile and candidate statement up on our website if you'd like to refer back to those. It's www.billerica.wickedlocal.com. So check those out. And again, thank you to BATV for organizing, recording, and putting this out. I just asked the questions, they did all the hard work. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.